I would like to welcome Ms. Ayana Bhattacharya, ma'am, to kindly speak about the topic. The platform is all
Uh,
yours, ma'am.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. So, since we already know a lot about violence against women, it's not a new issue for us. So, but what we need to focus on are the solutions on how we can handle patriarchy or deal with it. So, as we know, patriarchy is the root of our society, and it's very unfortunate that it is. But and no doubt, women empowerment is the way through which we can battle patriarchy. But we also need to be very aware of when we use the term women empowerment or empowerment in general, because in most times patriarchy has also managed to infiltrate into the term to define how a woman should be empowered or how empowerment in women looks like. This is apparently very evident when we are sharing memes on women empowerment, like we're pitting women against each other while doing so. So like it's a lot of people find it funny that women who have managed to shackle the patriarchy by infiltrating previously male dominated sections like the engineering sector or the medical sector or even aviation currently. So those are considered to be more empowered than women who like to do things for themselves. Like there are a lot of memes which says female doctors, female engineers are what empowerment should look like, and they ridicule women with tattoos or colored hair, that this is not what empowerment looks like. But who gave them the permission to decide what empowerment really looks like? So I think the first solution to patriarchy would be, and violence against women, like, because it's a package. So the root cause of it is patriarchy. So when if we are to battle patriarchy, we need to be very sensitive about how we handle our surroundings, how we handle ourselves, and how we uh, access these things. So the first way to battle patriarchy would be accountability on a personal level, like being conscious about what we share, how we perceive things, be constantly checking ourselves on to not be sexist, racist, or like to not judge others basically based on their choices. And then we also, when it comes to media representation also matters a lot when we talk about patriarchy. Like Bollywood is one of the major platforms which even today is actually helping to perpetuate patriarchy, like all the sexist songs, and they are still very famous, even though there has been criticisms, but we do not see people not consuming them. So first, Bollywood needs to be held accountable. We as consumers need to stop consuming sexist products. And then coming to the TV industry, we need to dismantle the idea of the ideal sanskari ladki, which still persists. And this notion is something which pits women against each other. How the sanskari ladki is always very docile, very submissive, whereas the one who's kind of ambitious is portrayed as vile, vicious, the one who's breaking the family. I think we
Ma'am,
need to be very
ma'am, I'm
considerate.
really very sorry to interrupt, but we are running out of time.
Okay, just one more point,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think Debahuti will explain it further. But the root cause of everything comes from socialization, which starts right from birth. So I think when we change our socialization patterns in the family level, it'll also help us understand, or it'll help us challenge patriarchy more. When we talk about rearing a child, I think we should stop reinforcing the stereotypical gendered norms and upbringings, and we should be more gender fluid and gender neutral in our approach. Debahuti will explain it better.
Thank
That's
you,
all.
Iona. That was a really good presentation. Thank you so much for handing me over. Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Debahuti, and I'm a student of social work. And Iona was actually one of my seniors, so I'm really happy to be sharing this platform with her. Okay, so without further ado, let me just get very straight to the topic because we have time constraints, right? Okay, So when we talk about violence against women or patriarchal construct or the notion of women empowerment, what we see is very, the basic thought behind these three things is that it comes from a notion that woman is always secondary to men. It also comes from the notion that you can own a woman or you can own a woman like it's a property. For example, when a girl child is born, the first responsibility of that girl child belongs to her father till she reaches the age of her marriage, and when she reaches marriage, the responsibility shifts to her husband and later on to her son. So it's like handing over the ownership from one male to another without even thinking that a woman is actually a whole. She is an individual entity who has her own dreams and aspirations. Rather, we just see her as an property or an ownership which passes from one male to another, and this actually lies as the base of what we term today as violence against women. So if we tend to look at the crime statistics of India, 2019 tells us that there is 4.5 lakhs of violence against women every year. And surprisingly, as Jupitera has very rightly pointed out, that during the pandemic it has increased to 7%, which is actually very huge. And this is actually a official record. There are so many unofficial, unrecorded violence against women which never finds any sort of justice. For example, one of my very close friends, she was actually slapped in the middle of Jorhat town by her boyfriend, and that never made it to the police station or anything. But that also is termed as violence against women, and what Jupi also very rightly said, intimate partner violence. So at present, the government, I won't say that government is not doing anything. There are some wonderful schemes, there are some wonderful programs and interventions that the government is taking. In fact, we have a whole ministry, right? Ministry of Child and Women Welfare, to to give the to give the proper security and facilities what a woman needs. But I would actually be using a very nice metaphor here. When a child is crying, the immediate thing that we do to make the child stop crying is actually give him a lollipop. So rather than giving a lollipop, that would actually not solve the entire problem. Rather, we should address the idea that why is the child crying. Just like that, the schemes, the government schemes, the central government or the state government schemes that we have at present, it is actually like a lollipop, or compensating for the wrong that is going on in our society. So I feel that definitely government intervention is very much important. But apart from that, what I feel is definitely required is actually institutionalized gender neutrality. And by institutionalized gender neutrality, I actually mean two basic institutions or two major institutions that play a very, very important role when it comes to developing the cognitive mindset of a child. That is
Ma'am,
firstly his home.
Devahuti ma'am, we are running out of time. It's less than
Yeah,
one
yeah,
minute that we
definitely.
are left. Please sum it up.
Hi. Actually, what happened was that we started a bit late, right? So maybe we can extend it a bit, few minutes also, if that is not a problem. Okay, so as I was saying that institutionalized gender neutrality. So what we need to do is actually uh, give a very neutral or a neutral set of creative parenting for children, a very gender neutral sort of parenting which has to start from home. And secondly, it has also to be addressed in school, because I very much remember the kind of separation that happened back in school days when it came to sports or certain curriculums where we were not really allowed to play some boyish sports, which according to our sisters, we were not meant for it. So I guess systemic gender neutrality is definitely key. The key to actually, I was saying that, so to actually address these three issues that the webinar is talking about, what we need apart from the government policies and programs is a institutionalized gender neutrality right from our home. And secondly, it has to continue to school, where there are creative ways of breaking the gender stereotypes and giving the right amount of equal opportunities to individuals, and not someone who is of a particular gender, but equal and real opportunities for all. And that would be, I think, very much helpful in um, bringing forward minds of people with a very wonderful mindset that is not only gender neutral but also gender sensitive. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great time. Also, I think now the panel is open for questions, I guess. That is not a problem.
Yes, yes, it's the question and answer round. So
Okay.
if anybody has any questions, please go move forward. Ma'am, we have a question. Why else do we need women empowerment as a solution today, other than bringing about a change to the world and breaking stereotypes to assist in the greater benefit of the society, the nation, and the world as a whole? Whoever would like to answer. Ayuna ma'am
Uh,
or Devanti ma'am, anybody.
I think both of us can answer this. My
Yeah.
answer is pretty simple because women are humans, and if one, why not women? I mean,
Exactly.
to bring a change. Like the reason is, why do we even need a change? If we are born equal, then why we need it? Because we are not equal. So because we are humans, we need to be treated like humans who are on this planet. I think that's why we need women empowerment, so that we anyone else's existence.
Yeah, very true.
So,
I think Iona is very much right. Empowerment actually should never be an obligation, you know. It should not come to us just because we are women, but it should come to us because we are human beings. And you know, there's so much of misconception with feminism, right? Right now, there is so much of misconception about feminism being about hating men, or you know, the misandry and stuff like that. But the idea of feminism has always been equality and nothing else. So the fact that we need empowerment is not because we want to rise higher up the ladder of men, but rather in equal positions. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
And ma'am, why do we need empowerment? Why is it needed so much in the society? And would you like to be a part of women empowerment program?
Definitely, because you know, empowerment, normally what happens is that empowerment is given to people who are marginalized. Marginalized in the sense that if we look at the structure of India, the sections who are considered as marginalized are actually the working class, women, and the Dalits. So the reason why we are considered to be marginalized or in that sphere is because we are not given equal opportunities. We are not given equal opportunities to you know, enhance ourselves. Just by giving us 33% reservation in the Panchayati Raj elections, that does not you know, ensure empowerment. If we look into the case of Madhya Pradesh, what happens is that and even in the western belt of India, what happens is that when a woman is elected for the Panchayati level elections, because they have to fulfill the quota, right? They have to fulfill the quota of the 33% reservation for women. So what happens is that they elect anyone. Very randomly, they will choose a woman who will be the representative namesake, but it will be her husband who will be doing the work. So it's like a very namesake thing that is happening, but on the you know, grassroots, it is actually the men who are holding the power. And they also have a very funny you know, connotation to name such husbands. They are known as pradhan pati, you know, the husband of the pradhan, because he is the person who is doing everything on his wife's you know, status of being elected as the president of the gaon, the panchayat. So that is exactly why we need empowerment.
Ma'am, there is another question. Is patriarchy the main problem or the ideology or thinking of the people? I mean, is it the ideology or the patriarchy that is the main problem?
Patriarchy influences the ideology of the people,
Yes.
because when we are born, we have no idea about the world. So, and how do we get an idea of the world? It's through the ideologies that our parents or our school or our immediate people surrounding us, they provide us with, right? So, and that those notions, those ideas, those principles are founded on the basis of patriarchy. So it's patriarchy which is the root cause of everything that's wrong with humans right now, because it's so unequal that even men are affected by it. Patriarchy has, in terms of women, patriarchy has made women very submissive. They expect women to be submissive, to be exploited, to be violated. And when to be the dominant sex, to be extremely masculine, it propagates toxic masculinity on men, and it gives the and it expects men to have that they cannot show emotions, or they have to be this, they have to be the stronger sex, and it's ridiculous basically. So I think it's patriarchy which influences the principles that is so wrong.
True. Also here, I would also like to add that women are also one of the chief patriarchs. Women have also
Agents of
been acting as,
patriarchy.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Women have, yeah. Please go ahead.
yeah,
Please go ahead.
no. Like women, because of patriarchy, like I completely agree with what Debahuti is saying. It's like because women have been socialized into a certain structure, they act as women, agents of patriarchy. So they themselves they, like, if a woman who's exploited, like a mother-in-law who, when she was a new bride to a family, she was exploited, right? So she would eventually, when she attains, when she becomes a grandmother, suppose, or when she has a bride, she has a daughter-in-law, she would want the daughter-in-law to go through the same process as she went. So that's acting as agents of patriarchy. So Debahuti, please continue.
Ma'am, what are your thoughts on matriarchal system and how? Okay, first, ma'am, answer. You'll have to answer this, and then I'll come to the second question. This question is, what are your thoughts on matriarchal system?
Okay, so this is very interesting. Okay, the concept of, I understood about the concept of matriarchy from my class 11, 12 political science books. Okay, and matriarchy is actually definitely present. We know in Meghalaya and also in certain other states. But if we look at the line of property, even when the property is actually given to the hands of a woman, but at the end of the day, it is the uncle of the woman who actually, runs it. So um, on a very on a very, how should I put this, political level, it might be that yes, a so and so communities are matriarchal, but at the end of the day they are not. They are still under the subjugation of either their husband's family or their uncles. So it is, as I've said, it is just a namesake thing that is given to them, but the power again lies with the men of the family. Yeah. So is that, I'm also not trying to hurt any community's sentiment, because I definitely know that how hardworking our women are from northeast. But I'm saying what I have observed or what I have read, that matriarchy definitely, some societies are definitely matriarchal, but at the end of the day, the power is always vested upon the husband or the uncle of the girl. So yeah.
There is another question. How did exactly patriarchy begin?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. Okay, so what happened was that, as much as I have read, patriarchy has been there since the dawn of civilization. Right from the time we were like we were in the society of hunting and gathering. Back then, what happened was that there was a division of labor. Okay, so, oh my god, I'm using the word okay so much. I feel like a professor, like one of my professors. Oh my god. Okay, so what happened was that there was a very normal division of labor amongst the two genders back in those societies, that I would be responsible, like the man will be responsible for hunting and gathering, while the woman, she would actually be looking after the kids and the domestic spheres. But with time, what happened was that that simple division of labor back in those days of the hunting gathering society, it actually turned into a social system. It took so many layers, it took so many different dirty colors, I would say, that that it has formed what it is now. But basically the idea of patriarchy started with the idea of division of labor between two people. But as I've said, it has been like, through centuries it became a social order, which definitely is not acceptable in any ways. So yeah.
And ma'am, the next question is, what role does religion or religious dogmatism plays in furthering patriarchy and marginalizing women?
Okay, it's a very interesting question, and I would like to answer that. So, first of all, I know I'll be hurting a lot of people's religious sentiments, but it is true when I say it, all religion are anti-women.
Yeah.
Because when you read like sociology of, I'm a sociology student, I have read sociology, I have had a paper, sociology of religion, and almost all the religions that I was being introduced to had a proper section where it mentioned how religion systematically tried to exclude women. So so it's true that all religion is kind of anti-women, and women have tried very hard to find a, because like religion gives us hope, and I'm not denying anything for people, for those who actually believes in religion. But I'll take the example of Manusmriti. When you read Manusmriti, it basically, the first line, like one of the major principles of Manusmriti is women are vile, women exist so to threaten the existence of men. That is what that is one of the basic foundations of Hinduism when it comes to women.
Yeah.
That women are vile in nature, and because they are vile in nature, they need to be subjugated, they need to be dominated no matter what. So, and as we know, Indian society is based on religion. There are so many religious divisions in our society that we cannot, even though we say that we are a secular country, we cannot actually distinguish religion from our society. So taking that into consideration, patriarchy and religion are uh, they go hand in hand, and it influences the way women perceive themselves, and the way society perceives women, and the expectations that are placed on women.
I would
Okay,
also
so
like
ma'am,
to add to what Ayuna just said. Last night it was Lakshmi Purnima, right? So what my mother did, she was actually chanting the chants of the goddess Lakshmi, what was written, and I was shocked to hear the prayers. Oh my goodness! Like one of those prayers said that if you are not a Pativrata woman, or if you have a crooked leg, if you have a crooked leg, that is not a good loikon, as we say in Assamese, for a woman, and she will like bring forth a lot of destruction to the family. Also, it also says like if a girl has a curly hair, like which I have, then she would definitely be, uh, a destruction to the family, which I really felt triggered, because I was sitting right there and my mother was chanting the hymns, and I just felt bad, because before that I was really excited to celebrate Lakshmi Puja at home and stuff like that. But then when she started chanting those hymns, I felt really uneasy. Yeah.
so ma'am, moving forward to the next question, is there any difference between feminism and women's empowerment?
Okay, so basically, feminism. What I mean by when I use the word feminism, what I mean is equality through equity. Okay, so and women empowerment forms a part of feminism. I'll agree, because women, we know, we cannot deny the situation of women in our society. Even when you say women are empowered, yes, women are more empowered than we were before, but can you actually go out at night without fearing for your life? Do women have the basic rights that men have in the constitution? Yes, but does it, what does the crime statistics say? It's very basic that feminism is important for women empowerment. Feminism has been mistreated in our society because it triggers men, because it triggers patriarchy, because it is a threat to patriarchy and the patriarchal structure that people are so comfortable with. And so uh, wait, and there is a difference. Okay, fine. Every difference, I think I could say that every empowered women might not be a feminist. Like, women are the agents of patriarchy, right? So I might be financially independent, I might be the CEO of a company, but if I am perpetuating sexist notions that I should be the Lakshmi of the family, that I should cook for my husband and stuff like that, that only I should be the one responsible for the household work, or my daughter should be the one responsible for the household work, then what's the point of me being financially independent?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
women empowerment forms a part of feminism, but but empowerment is way more than that. Feminism is way more than that.
Yeah,
Feminism, like basically, empowerment would be me being myself, me being happy with what I have, me achieving what I can with my capabilities, getting the same opportunities that men get. But for me, it would be also not judging other people doing so.
yeah, exactly. So basically, like both of us agree, empowerment is not always getting a job, or not always, being front, or being economically independent. Rather, it is actually the power to do something that you really want to do and not bother about everything else. But that is not possible in a patriarchal society. So that is where empowerment is needed, to understand what you actually need, what are actually your aspirations, and which is not color coded by the aspirations of your husband or your family or your father. What exactly do you want? And the ability to pursue that is actually empowerment. Right, Iona? I
Yep,
guess so.
exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so the next question is to both the panelists. What are your thoughts on domestic violence upon man?
Violence is still violence. Violence does not have a gender. But
Never.
yeah, domestic violence against men exists. And I feel that a lot of it is unreported, and a lot of people take it for granted because they feel that men cannot be violated against. So it's
True.
not treated as a serious issue. And it's not really talked about that often. So
Very true.
okay, it's a very interesting thing. So if you go, so there is this popular musician Hozier. He has a song Cherry Wine, which talks about violence on men.
Yeah.
The lyrics clearly states how the partner of the man is abusing him, both emotionally, physically, and sexually. But
True.
like we spoke about intimate partner issues, violence against men exists. It is a serious topic, but it is not spoken about or taken seriously because they feel, because of the structure of a society, that men cannot be violated against. Men are strong. Men cannot tolerate a woman hitting them.
Yeah.
These are some
True.
popular notions, and that's why it's been sidelined. And these topics only come to our conscience when we are talking about violence on women. They are never, like, if you notice, they are hardly ever spoken separately. Whenever we talk about a woman getting a wife getting slapped or domestic violence in general, the counter question is, but even men are violated. But why do we need to use the word even men are violated? That can be an entirely separate topic that needs to be a conversation on its own, and it should not be used to negate domestic violence on women. Domestic violence is it's a very broad term, and it needs to include both men and women, because abusers are abusers and victims are victims, and we need to be very sensitive towards it.
True.
Moving towards the next question, does public-private dichotomy still exist in the 21st century India? If yes, does it further the existing patriarchy?
Public
Would you please?
private domain in what sense?
Public-private dichotomy. I'll repeat the question. Does public-private dichotomy still exist in 21st century India? If yes, does it further the existing patriarchy? This question has come from Aravind Krishnan. So Aravind Krishnan, can you please elaborate us on this question, because it's a bit unclear?
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Good
I just
evening.
want to ask, like, the patriarchal system have been oppressing women and the
And
political,
men. Yeah.
yeah, and men, okay. And the political process have been focused on the public sphere where usually men have been in power. So, is there any possibility of women, Indian women, being able to come forward in the public sphere in 21st century India, or is the situation still the same?
Okay, first of all, the politics we know, like when we use the word politics, we usually, it's basically, we refer to as party politics or politics in general, right? But politics actually, it incorporates everything. Even our personal lives are influenced by politics. Personal is political. What we are as individuals, the chances we have is because of our position in the society, is because of our social setting. So yes, women have come, if you mean that we are have the position of women in the political sphere changed from its previous decades or something, then yes, women have, like, there has been a significant slight change that women are more present in the public sphere, but then that sphere is also slightly threatened. And because whenever a woman speaks up, the women is always put under a microscope, always scrutinized, but the same doesn't really happen for men. So yeah, and it has influenced patriarchy, at least that's what I feel.
All right, thank you, Aravind Kishan. Now, the next question is, why do you feel patriarchy is the main cause regarding the deprivation of women? And sorry, the question is a bit wrong, I guess. This has come from HP. HP, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question directly, because the question here has some errors. I think whoever the person was, he or she basically meant that, is patriarchy the main cause for the deprivation of women, and is it only patriarchy the reason for the deprivation of women? Ma'am, Debahuti ma'am, you're not audible because you're on mute.
Okay. Sorry. So to answer his or her question, patriarchy is definitely the only reason why both men and women are subjugated to a certain level. But of course, women is much more subjugated due to this system, because this is a kind of social order which puts a lot of unreasonable and unethical expectations on both men and women, which is not only harmful, but also it creates a total two sets of different binaries. It creates a division between male and female when both of them can just be looked from the lens of being human beings. So definitely yes.
So
Okay, so I
that's
hope
it.
that answers the question. Yeah, yeah.
So that's all for the question and answer round. Now I'd like Shilpi Lekha Das to deliver the vote of thanks.
Hi everyone. We are really sorry for the technical glitches and issues that was held in the beginning of the first part of the webinar. But thankfully we could carry on with the questions, and I think we have answered. Our panelists have answered almost all the questions that was there from the participants of the webinar. So on that note, I would like to thank the panelists Ayana Bhattacharya and Debahuti Gogoi for being a part of this webinar, for taking out time and being with us here. I thank our ma'am Satarupa Bhattacharya ma'am, and everyone from the team of Jarna Foundation and my team. So thank you so much everyone for being a part of this webinar. It means a lot to us. So hope we'll be seeing each other again in some webinar or someday. Thank you.